Eddie Hall. This British muscle man completed his first strongman competition in 2007. By 2011, he was placing first in the UK's Strongest Man competition, a title he would go on to win 6 years in a row. That's not the only contest he's impressed at though. In 2017, he notably won Britain's Strongest Half for Julius Bjornsson. He isn't just a mountain of a man. He played a man called The Mountain on HBO's A Game of Thrones. While he was playing The Mountain on TV, he was also mounting an impressive number of strongman trophies on his mantle. Going through the 56 international and national solo first-place finishes of his career would take too long, but his accomplishments in 2018 kind of put everything in focus. That was when Hafer became the first man to win the Arnold Strongman Classic, the Europe's Strongest Man, and the World's Strongest Man contests all in the same year. He also won the titles of World's Ultimate Strongman and Iceland's Strongest Man. Talk about domination. Louis Uni. Also known as Apollon the Mighty, Louis Uni was born in France in 1862. Given the time period, the accounts of his feats of strength aren't always easy to confirm, but there's no doubt about his place in history. Most any conversation about the strongest men ever will come around to Uni. Famous for his grip strength, he performed feats that few others could attempt. This included everything from one-handed snatches to an escaping prisoner stage act that saw him bending iron bars at will. In 1913, he even put on a show which had him extending his arms to keep 2 vehicles back, though he was sadly injured in the process. Brian Shaw. Imagine winning the World's Strongest Man title and the Arnold Strongman Classic in the same year. Someone who doesn't have to imagine such an accomplishment is Brian Shaw, because he's done it twice. When he pulled it off in 2011, it was a first. 4 years later, it remained as impressive. It's no surprise, since if you look at the ranking of a most decorated strongmen in 2023, you'll see he sits in an impressive 4th place. Paul Anderson. This man stood atop the proverbial strength mountain in the 50s and 60s. He won weightlifting gold medals at the 1955 World Championships and at the Melbourne Olympics in 1956. In 1960, he was deemed ineligible to compete at the Olympics, but he wasn't going to let that stop him. Indeed, he showed off his might by matching the record set at those same games 3 times in a row. Now, did he really squat 1,200 pounds? There are skeptics to that, and some other of his accomplishments. Still, greats like Bruce Wilhelm have called him the strongest of the strong. Bill Kazmaier. Back in the 80s, Kazmaier dubbed himself the strongest man who ever lived, and would pull off amazing accomplishments in order to live up to said claim. But Kazmaier isn't some sort of sideshow strongman, he's the real deal, and truly one of history's greatest men of strength. As of 2023, there have been 2 men who have won 3 consecutive World's Strongest Man titles. He's one of them. He's also set multiple records, like when he bench pressed 660 pounds during an International Powerlifting Federation event. He may no longer hold that record, but it doesn't make it any less remarkable. Mark Henry. That would be Mark Henry. He excels at the strongman stuff, while also reigning supreme in both power and weightlifting, which took him to the 1992 and 1996 Olympics. Sadly, an injury kept him from reaching his full potential on the latter event's stage. However, his performance at the 1996 U.S. National Weightlifting Championships was one for the history books, as was his 5-lift record. Henry also joined the WWE, building a Hall of Fame-worthy career, proving he's not a one-trick pony. Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Vasyl Verestiuk. He won Ukraine's Strongest Man 6 times and became a member of parliament in 2021. Magnus Vermagnusson. He won 4 World's Strongest Man golds in the 90s, 3 of which were in a row. Mariusz Pudzianowski. His 5 World's Strongest Man and 6 Europe's Strongest Man wins speak for themselves. Zydrunas Savickas. In 1989, a teenage Zydrunas Savickas watched a strongman competition and decided he wanted to do that. It only took a few years before he began competing and building what would become perhaps the greatest strongman career of all time. We don't have time to get into every single world record he set, but we will say there are more than 70 of them. And if you want to talk about competitions, all you have to do is look at his 4 World's Strongest Man titles, or his 8 Arnold Strongman Classic wins. Let's also not forget his multiple first-place finishes in the Strongman Champions League competition circuit. There's no heavy lifting required to leave us a comment, so go ahead and let us know what you think below. Leonid Taranenko. At the 2021 World Weightlifting Championships, Lasha Talakads lifted 267 kilograms in the clean and jerk. This was significant, just breaking the previous record of 266 kilograms, a record that had stood for since 1988, when the great Soviet Belarusian weightlifter Leonid Taranenko said it. But wait, there's also a lot more that speaks to Taranenko's strength. For instance, he took home a weightlifting gold medal at the 1980 Olympics in Moscow and a silver at the Barcelona Games 12 years later, in 1992. He's no stranger to medals at the World Weightlifting Championships either, with a bronze, a silver, and 2 golds to his name.